So in this video, I'm going to break down the 7 reasons that I see why most high-level agency owners, SaaS owners, whatever you want to call yourselves, but the reason that I see them failing more times than not. Now, I felt really compelled to make this video because I just went to a high-level event that was hosted here in my city of Austin, Texas. And after talking to literally almost everybody in the room, it was very clear that very few people actually know what they're doing. There's people that have been using high-level for 3 years, 5 years, over a year, paying $500 a month for the full SaaS plan and still didn't have any clients. So I'm going to break down this video. Now, don't expect any crazy fancy edits or anything like that. This is purely more of a rant, but because of what I was sharing with them, it seemed like it helped them quite a bit and kind of unlock this like aha moment that they were having. I felt like it would be good to share with you. So the first thing I see is not choosing a clear niche or avatar. Now you can call it niche, call it niche, whatever you want to call it. Probably just depends on where you're at demographic or geographically. But first off, it is really hard to communicate with people, and I didn't understand this at first, but it's really hard to communicate with a certain type of person if you're not speaking their language. Now, I don't mean like English or Spanish or anything like that, but that could kind of be an example where, if you were to get dropped in the middle of Mexico where nobody spoke English and you start speaking English, well, nobody can understand you. They're not going to pay you much attention, and well, that communication is going to be very lackluster, we should say. But think about it in terms of like, if you're going after chiropractors, they're not talking about wanting more booked appointments or, if we're working with car detailers, they want like ceramic coating jobs or they call them jobs. But if you're talking to a chiropractor, ultimately what they want is patience. Now, the other cool thing is, when you know the industry you're going after, you get to have a very specific, not diluted messaging, meaning that you can use these terms and you can speak their language, which means you're one of them. And when they feel like you're one of them, they feel like you understand them. So biggest thing I see is, again, talking to a lot of people the other day, they're working with all types of different businesses and they have 1 or 2 clients in this industry or 1 client in this industry, another client in a different industry. And they're stuck at like 3 clients for those that had clients. And it's like, well, why aren't you scaling down? They're like, well, if I, can accommodate everybody, I can help everybody with this stuff. That's usually the reason people are stuck because they haven't niched down. Now, funny story, I made the mistake myself when I was beginning, but I got lucky. I was literally reaching out to any and everybody under the sun trying to land clients. And when I say anybody and everybody, I mean, I was like reaching out to nail salons, pizza places, sandwich shops, cryotherapy clinics, whatever they're called, chiropractic clinics as well. And the funny thing is, the very first client that actually gave me a shot and said, yes, I'll take you up on your offer. I'll, buy your services, try you out for a month, which by the way was like a freaking amazing moment. But it was a chiropractor. And more specifically, it was a chiropractor offering red light therapy for body contouring and fat loss. And of course I said yes, because I was broke and trying to get a client. I was like, yeah, we can take care of that. Gotcha. They say yes, they pay the invoice. I'm freaking out. It's awesome. But then like 5 minutes later, when that kind of high calmed down, I literally was like freaking out because I had no clue how to, or what even body contouring or red light therapy was. So I did a lot of research, but I found that, I learned how to run that offer, and it was easiest for me to try to find more people that were doing the same thing. So with Dr. Hoover, which is my first client, shout out Dr. Hoover, it wasn't until like 3 or 4 years later that he knew he was my very first client. He said I had a suspicion, but he didn't know that he was my first client because, well, I gave him tons of attention to make sure that it worked out. But anyways, when it did work out, it's like, hey, do you know any other doctors, chiropractors that do this little red light thingy? And of course he did. He connected me with this guy named Dr. Maselli out in Tennessee. And well, I reached out to Dr. Maselli and I got to talk about how we run ads specifically for red light therapy for body contouring and fat loss. And it was like music to Dr. Maselli's ears. Like it was the easiest sales call ever. One, because it came from a referral, which is another story for another day. Those things are like layups if you do them correctly. But the other thing was that he was looking for somebody to run ads for red light therapy, for body contouring and fat loss. And that's what I was talking about. Not bringing you more jobs. I was talking about bringing you high quality, pre-paying patients that try your red light therapy services and are most likely to buy your bigger packages or your high ticket care plans. And again, when you do that, you niche down, you speak their language. Well, it wasn't very long after that replicated the results for Dr. Maselli. asked him, hey, do you know anybody with this magical little red light device? Do you know any other chiropractors I could talk to? And they started getting me, I called it the circuit, but they started getting me in touch with literally every other chiropractor and stuff they knew. Now, of course, I incentivized them and told them I'd pay them a referral commission if, that led to somebody signing up for my services, and it worked out very well. But it was very, very easy to get these clients because I wasn't trying to take over their entire business and run ads for everything. I wasn't trying to work with their accountant. I wasn't trying to work with the guy that does their dry cleaning. I was trying to only master red light therapy, and I got to speaking that language very, very well. So that's the first one. Now I know we're only on number 1 of 7, but I really wanted to harp on that one because if all you did was focus on a particular niche, learn their lingo, talk to a few of them, even if you don't close them as clients, but learn the types of things that they're saying. And I'll give you one more example. I was another industry that we're in is roofing, and I didn't know a lot about roofing. One of the first calls I hopped on with a guy, he said something. I was like, what do you do for marketing? He told me a couple things, but then he said, we also clover leaf the area. He like grazed over it real fast, like I should know what it meant. And I was like, hold up, pause, like, what is, I've worked with a few other roofers. I've never heard that term. What does that mean? And he was like, clover leafing. He's like, yeah. He's like, if we're doing a job in a neighborhood, we go 3 streets over, like wide and 3 streets deep. He's like, so we clover leaf the area and talk to all the neighbors, et cetera. And I was like, oh, that's good. He's like, yeah, use that on your next call with the roofer. They'll know you know what you're talking about. And I did. And I was like, oh yeah, you guys, like, what are you guys doing for marketing? You doing this? You doing that? Are you doing any clover leafing? And then they were like, oh, okay, this guy knows. Like it was so cool. It was like I was one of the boys. So that was a huge cheat code. But again, niche down, go after a particular niche, do it for a month, learn the lingo, go after that certain industry, and I bet you'll have faster success. Now, 2 is overcomplicating literally everything. I mean, sincerely, like it's probably like the initial setup or just, talking to people and trying to onboard them. I get like the excitement of wanting to get a client and feeling like you have to do everything. Now, if you're selling from a place where I was when I was getting started, like literally broke, sleeping on a couch in my grandparents' basement with like $4.12 in your account, not exaggerating. It was roughly around that amount. And I literally was sleeping on a couch in my grandparents' basement. So it felt weird to like ask people for money, and I really wanted to make sure I delivered for them. So I was trying to like talk about all these different things that I could do, but I quickly figured out that the more you talk about with people, the more options that you give them. Well, there's what I would call 2 things: more points of friction. Well, if they don't like this or they've had a bad experience here or etc., well, they're going to talk about or highlight the thing that they don't like. The other thing is more points of failure. I've also sold offers where, I was charging high ticket. I sold them and I added a lot of stuff because I wanted to justify my pricing, and I would crush at the main thing that I was trying to get them, which was like more clients or patients. But for instance, this one offer, we were offering to do a full, what we called weight loss wall of fame. And it was basically a digital landing page, but it just had testimonials on it. And we had kind of oversold what we were going to do. We got a bunch of clients, more than we expected, but we said, hey, take all these pictures. I'll even send you out a tripod. Thank you, Amazon. You can just like kind of drop ship straight from Amazon. But I sent them out a tripod. They would take these pictures and these videos. And I said, hey, send it back to my team. We'll edit it. We'll update it to your thing. Well, I don't know what happened, miscommunication. Maybe it was my video guy, maybe it was me. I don't know. Anyways, the ball got dropped and somebody's pictures did not get updated for a week. And even though we had crushed it for them, they were closing at like double the closing ratio, which was kind of what our program was promising, just a higher closing ratio. That was going great, but the fact that we didn't upload their pictures in a timely manner, they were like pissed off, really upset. And that's just kind of an example of like overcomplicating things. So like I was trying to include too much in this offer. And like fast forward like 6 months after that, we stripped everything down and just focused on one thing. We got really good at a 3-step process for helping people, or more specifically chiropractors, close more patients into their high ticket packages and even raise their prices. And that was the focus. We stripped out everything else. Now, moral of the story there is the less we had to focus on, the easier it was to talk about, the easier it was for my client to understand or my prospect to understand, and the easier it was to deliver without all these other points of friction or points of failure. So again, most people are overcomplicating things, and it's really to compensate for not feeling, like we know what we're doing. It's kind of like that imposter syndrome and just something you do to kind of justify charging somebody something. You want to be everything to them, and that's another huge mistake that I see. Again, focus on one feature or one result and deliver that result in as few of steps, few of variables as possible, and you'll be on your way to a really, really good offer. We have a motto in our company. If you know me or you know my business partner, Charles, we say simple sales, simple scales. Literally, it is like the death of overcomplicating things. As soon as that happens and you kill off the overcomplicating of things and you make things super simple, well, it just feels like business and life gets easier. And that's exactly the motto at our business. And we preach that all the time. So 3, selling features instead of outcomes. Now, it's funny. I've been using this term sell futures, not features for a while. And I was like, man, I want to get that trademark. And then I found out that there's a book called that. And I actually still haven't read that despite being a big book guy. You can kind of see all the books behind me. But anyways, we talk about selling futures instead of features. And what I see in the high level community specifically is, Sean and them, they're great. Varun, Robin, these guys are amazing. High level. I've watched it from like very beginning to like, where they're at now, which is crazy, but they have so many freaking features that like, even I don't know everything that it does. Now, thank God I got Charles, my business partner, that knows high level better than anybody that, I've ever met. But biggest thing is like, there's so many things that you can do with it. And we kind of get obsessed with all these cool little features and workflows and automations. And, I see a lot more high level people talking to other high level people rather than actual business owners. So we get really caught up in this like lingo or lexicon of, talking about all these different things. And when we start talking to clients, we start spewing out this technobabble, in the words of Russell Brunson. Like we start talking about automations and how this workflow has this action and this trigger and da 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 da. And you're literally speaking a different language to your client or prospect, which only cares about the outcome. And in most of the things that we sell and in most anything in business, all they want to do is sell more customers. Now, again, if it's chiropractor, it might be what they want to, help more patients. If it's a roofer, they might want more full roofing replacements or more jobs, etc. And there's so many people talking about how they have this 30-day, 60-day nurture sequence, workflow automation, blah, 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 blah. And again, great. You can have all those things. And, I would, again, argue that you could simplify a lot of that and not have to give even a ton of that away and still deliver a great result. But that should never be appearing or being spoken out loud on your sales calls or to prospects, because they do not care about the features. I promise you. The only people that I've ever met that care about the features are people that are trying to knock you off and they're trying to get some information and trying to recreate what you're doing so they can just not hire you in the first place. Or 2, people that are not going to buy and they don't know what else to ask you to try to delay the inevitable no thank you. They start asking about the features and all that stuff. I've really never had anybody, maybe one, and I'm honestly probably making it up if there's one, that asked all the questions about all these features or specifics and actually move forward with me. It's usually an instance where they're trying to recreate what we're doing. They're shopping us and then, we find another competitor down the road, using our same stuff or our ideas. So again, that's a big one on number 3. Now, number 4 is ignoring lead generation and relying solely on referrals or word of mouth. Now, crazy thing is, again, when I was at this event here in Austin, talking to people, asking like how you find clients, like, oh, I'm talking to my friends and, this person referred this person. Like, oh, so you mostly word of mouth. They're like, yeah. And they're like, cool. How many clients do you have? They're like 3. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. How long have you been doing this? 3 years. And I'm like, you're averaging a client per year relying on referrals. You really, honestly, especially if you're in GoHighLevel or like running a marketing agency or these things, you're most likely trying to generate more business for your clients. You're doing lead generation or whatever it is that you do, whether it's reviews, etc. But we are doing things that bring in new leads typically. At least that's the most common thing that I see. Now, again, there's all kinds of different things that you could do with GoHighLevel, but you need to focus on lead generation. And that doesn't necessarily have to mean you have to spend money on ads. Now, that is a great strategy, another tactic, and we have a whole on training about like running ads to get clients. That is one of the best ways to do it. But when I was starting out, I was broke. And, one of the only things that I could do, because it didn't cost money, was I could send looms out to people. I could cold call people, which isn't sexy. But if you have more time on your hands than money, well, you got to do what you got to do to get things going. And until you get to that point where you have a budget to run ads and you can do and I wouldn't say the correct lead generation, but the most common type of lead generation, you got to be doing things to put yourself out there. And again, if that's attending networking events, but you got to focus on some sort of lead generation, because I don't care how good you are. I've met people that are high-level certified admins that have no freaking clue how to get clients. Like, sure, you know a lot about high level, but is your Stripe account dinging? dinging? And typically it's no. And if it is dinging, it's very infrequently. So again, focus on actual lead generating activities. So again, that could be cold emailing, could be cold calling, could be Looms, which I love, which is how I built my agency in the first place. And it still works to this day. We have a whole Loom outreach training, which is amazing because so many people are using that to just get people on the phone or on a Zoom to talk to them about their services. So again, don't ignore lead generation and rely on referrals, because especially when you're small, nobody knows who you are. And even if you are getting one or two people here and there, like if you really want to grow this thing, you actually got to do some lead generating activities. Now, 5 is undercharging or poor pricing structures. That is one of the biggest things that I see that keep people broke and will just in this constant, what I would call either cycle or hamster wheel, rat race, whatever you want to call it. But it leads to burnout. And a lot of times this is just because like you maybe feel insecure about charging people prices, especially again, when I started out, it was really hard to ask for money with $4 in my bank account, talking to chiropractors that went to college for years and years and years. And I barely passed high school. So, but that being said, a lot of people have that imposter syndrome or feel like they're inferior or not good enough to charge these higher ticket prices. And one of the things that we always teach in any of our programs is charging high ticket. Again, you're going to work with better quality clients typically. Now, there's still going to be some pain in the asses, no matter what price point you charge. But typically, the higher that you charge, you're working less with people who you're taking their last $500 or what if $100 or $500 or $1,000 is a big deal to somebody, that's a red flag. And it takes a long time to realize that, but when you start working with higher caliber clients, you'll realize that what Alex Hormozy always says, and like sell to rich people makes your life a whole lot easier. It's true, because the people that are able to pay these bigger prices, two things happen. One, it's either not as big of a deal to them, it's not as big of a hit, and they're just used to investing in things and they already have this growth mindset. So they'll spend money to inevitably make more money, or at least that's the hope. And again, I've done this plenty of times. I've spent tons of money on things that we hope will move the needle in one way, shape, or form for our business. And a lot of times they do pan out. Every once in a while we get one that doesn't, but it's not that big of a deal. It wasn't like it was this, or like my kid goes to college, and like these are not the types of clients that I want to work with if it's that big of a situation there. But if you charge high ticket, then what you're ultimately doing is giving yourself bandwidth. Now, I talk about this. I teach high ticket sales to chiropractors, even still to this day. Every Wednesday, I'm training at 11 a.m. CST, but I teach people how to sell cash-based packages. And half the time, I'm yelling at them, telling them why they need to be charging these high ticket prices. Even chiropractors have this same kind of, I guess, imposter syndrome, or not feeling like they can charge as much as I recommend. But every time somebody does, and I've taken people from $600 packages, I've taken people from $149 sessions to only selling $2,500 packages. And what happens in every instance, same thing for you, because I've taught a lot of agency owners to do the same thing, is you can sell high ticket, which does two things. One, we capture a lot of revenue up front. And if we're charging a higher monthly recurring, well, guess what? It's more fun for all parties involved, because a lot of times I see what high level folks are doing is they're either not charging setup fees, they're not charging high ticket, and they're charging something like $97 a month or whatever it is. And it drives me crazy. Like even in the high level Facebook group, you'll get people asking like, oh, what can I charge for this AI? And you'll even get some like people that I would consider, and I wouldn't call them big names as like a compliment. They're just more well known in the high level space, but they talk about how, oh, I don't charge setup fees and it's only $97 per month. And it's like, these people don't know what the hell they're talking about. All of these things, if you're selling to the right customer, like we're selling AI, we've sold AI, just a conversational AI, not even voice, and a GHL build to streamline like lead flow and qualify leads automatically, et cetera, for up to $15,000. And we're also usually charging on the back end up to $1,000, sometimes $2,000 for these things. And people are like, oh my God, how do you do that? And we routinely have members in some of our programs that are charging high ticket prices. For instance, I helped Joey close a 5-figure deal with a roofing company, and it was $10,000 to set up, or $9,997 if you want to get technical, and then $1,000 per month ongoing. And that had nothing to do with lead gen. It was just qualifying their existing leads and doing some DBRs or database reactivations with their existing leads that they already had. And people are like, oh my gosh, how do you charge that much? And I'm like, well, think about what you're doing. And by no means am I telling you you're going to go out there and like charge this much, et cetera. I'm literally just giving you examples of like what has happened either with us or what I've seen with members doing and just kind of relaying those to you. But what happens when you're charging the correct prices is, again, you're collecting a lot of revenue, which gives you what I call bandwidth, more bandwidth to hire team members. So if you don't like the prospecting thing, hire somebody to do the prospecting for you. If you don't like sales, hire a salesperson. If it's you need to upgrade that high level account to the higher tier one so you can start doing the rebilling or whatever it is, you have to be charging higher ticket prices so you have the bandwidth to continue to grow your company. Because if you're not growing your company and you are giving a lackluster experience, well, that's a terrible, terrible thing to do here in the high level space, because there's over 100,000 people in the high level group, which probably means there's roughly 100,000 plus agency owners or something out there. Like, you're competing in a very big ocean, but there's a lot of sharks in that ocean fighting for the same food. So that being said, you need to invest in your business. Otherwise, you're going to stay stuck. And again, it leads to that burnout. You're not charging enough. You feel like you're doing more work than what it's worth. And it's frustrating. I see a lot of people like give up or throw in the towel and go back to working regular jobs because they simply outprice or they price themselves out of business. So again, charge high ticket. And when you do that, or just raise your fees and charge what you're worth, and think about it in terms, like I talked about Joey a moment ago, charging that 5-figure deal, charging $1,000 a month, not even including lead gen. But the cool thing was he was following up with their leads for them, not just the new ones coming in, but old ones. And he's generating a ton of business. Because if you think about roofers, specifically this type of roofer, their average deal was between $15,000 and $25,000. So if all Joey did was get them one new person to buy a full roof replacement, whether monthly, whether quarterly, it's still a huge ROI. And we're pricing based on what we're delivering, the outcome that we're selling, rather than what it costs us to do it, how little bit of time it takes us to do it, et cetera. So again, do not undercharge, because you will have a very, very terrible go at this. You won't be able to have the bandwidth to grow your business, build the infrastructure that you need to give world-class experiences and results to your clients. And ultimately, you're not going to be a big fish. You're going to be stuck in this little pond with all these other little fish, not knowing what the hell they're doing, wondering if I wasted half of my life learning this high level thing and should I go back to working a regular job. That's usually what happens. Now, we'll go right to 6. So 6 is weak or non-existent client onboarding. The other thing that I see is I've had a lot of people that will maybe find a client and get lucky and get one. And well, what happens is they're so focused on getting the client that, they think that the software is so good because everybody talks about how sticky it is, that if I just get my client using this software, they'll never leave me. That is one of the biggest fallacies or biggest lies in the high level space ever. We have such great client retention. Like, I don't know a lot of people that with their agencies have as good a client retention as we do. And I'm not saying that as like a brag or a flex, but our average client is staying a long time. Like I have clients that have been with me 6 years now, which is insane in lead gen. But the one thing that I learned, and I learned this the hard way, is if you're not onboarding clients, if you're not giving great communication from the get-go, they are literally looking for reasons to not do business with you, or looking for reasons to be like, I knew it, this was too good to be true type of thing. So you got to have a great onboarding experience. And that doesn't mean you have to be like calling them every day, good morning, none of that stuff. Like, you literally could stay in contact with them, but having a process and setting expectations every step of the way. Because biggest thing is, high level is easy to use for us. But if you've ever tried to show this to somebody that's never seen it before, it is like learning a new language. So you need to do what you can, whether that be automated videos, whether that be a great onboarding survey experience, etc. But setting great expectations and staying in great contact with them. Because again, people will go out there and get clients, people will give you money. And if they're not onboarded and treated amazingly and set with or met with expectations every step of the way that you deliver on, and you make it easy for them to get onboarded, you make it easy for them to use the software, you make it easy for them to want to stay, well, they're going to leave you in 1 to 3 months. I mean, that's typically like the lifespan of an agency is 1 to 3 months. And that's typically because you're not setting proper expectations, or you're setting unrealistic expectations and then severely under-delivering. So if you focus on that onboarding experience, not only can you capture quick wins from your client. I mean, I've had clients where I've gotten what I would call testimonials after 24 hours of going live, because one, we had such great client onboarding experience, communication, and then if we're even generating leads or appointments within 24 hours, best believe I'm capturing that moment, whether it be on FaceTime, on phone, on Zoom, but then I can leverage those results to go get more clients. But on the flip side, if we're not doing any of that and it's just like, okay, they paid an invoice and then it's like, I expect them to just follow these emails, which That's again, maybe it's because we're a lot of introverted people here in high level. You think that when they pay you, they're going to read all your emails. And even if you do everything right in the emails, I mean, we have so many redundancies in our agency and everything that we do, but we're still following up. Did you get it? Do you understand it? Does it make sense? Hey, I didn't see you, fill out this. Can you make sure you get that? You want to hop on? Can we fill that out for you? And we're just trying to every step of the way, because no matter what we plan for, we always assume nobody's going to do it like we intend. And you got to take that into consideration rather than like, oh, well, they just didn't fill out their form. Again, so take that into consideration. And even if you have the craziest, amazing automations, which so many high-level people do, in fact, the people with the least amount of clients typically have the best automations because they're focused on the wrong things. So that being said, I want to go to number 7, and we'll wrap this thing up here pretty soon. But the other thing is neglecting client retention and follow-up. So focusing solely on acquiring new clients while ignoring current client satisfaction and retention. And there's so many agencies or agency owner people, I would call them. I don't want to give them too much credit because I don't believe in their business model, but there's this whole churn and burn mentality that I see a lot of, and I try to stay as far away from those people as possible. But they think client acquisition is the only thing that matters. And yes, getting new clients, growing your business, getting new sales is the lifeblood of your business, the oxygen of your business. I absolutely agree with that. However, what you want to do is take care of the freaking clients that you have. It shouldn't be a game where you're trying to sell 3 clients a month and who cares if you lose 1 or 2, you're still positive or net 1 or 2 each month. You should be trying to take care of these clients. And I think that's one of the reasons we thrive so well and got our SaaSpreneur award, very early, like when they first started doing the awards. And that wasn't with SaaS, that was with full-on agency clients paying us thousands of dollars per month. But the cool thing about that is these people were getting a great experience, and we were able to sell them more things. Not only were they referring people at a crazy rate and giving us what I would call these layups, and it made our acquisition literally next to none. Like, we didn't run ads. Like, I think we maybe ran a total of 2 weeks to 4 weeks of paid ads for my agency in the 5 years of running an agency. Like, that's collectively like 2 to 4 weeks of running ads, give or take a week or two, because I just can't really remember running promotions to get clients that way. We aligned ourselves strategically with different power partners, what I call them. We teach that stuff too in some of our programs. But we took such good care of our clients that it was so different than anything they'd ever experienced. Even if they've used GoHighLevel, a white labeled version of GoHighLevel, 57 times with 29 different marketers, they still got a much better experience than what they were expecting and what they were used to. And that led to them, whenever we had some new program or package come out, guess what? I had like these hardcore fans that would just buy it, didn't even have to look at the sales page. Like, literally up to $7,500, I'm closing people on text in like 5 minutes because they were so happy with how we delivered before. And I'm only saying that because, again, if you're focusing on getting new clients, which I completely get, especially when you're trying to make money and make a living, that makes sense. But you got to take care of the old clients because they're ultimately the ones that are going to continue bringing you new people. They're the ones that are going to give you the testimonials, going to help you get those new clients. And then also, as you start to roll out new products or services, they're the ones most likely to buy. It's always easier to sell something to people that have already given you money rather than finding convincing new people to give you money, pending you give great service and you just focus on treating them great. So that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you like this one, there's some links below if you want to see some of our programs. If not, I'll see you in another video, but hopefully you crush it out there with GoHighLevel.